I think it's very important to highlight some of the congressional support and, most importantly, some of the pushback we've received from Congress. For example, I can't help but, I appreciate Jen Perlman, and I think it's important for your viewers to note that Jen Perlman's opponent was, in my opinion, is a member of the weaponization of the federal government. She was positioned to help and make an impact in this situation, yet she's chosen not to offer her outright support on this issue. And what's really interesting about this is back in, not long ago, the New York Post ran an article saying, talking about some of the gains that our congressional members have made while they're in office, talking about how Ms. Wasserman Schultz in particular beat the market every single solitary year. And specifically, her biggest gains were made on shares of an energy company.
Oh, yeah.
In 2022. Correct. So it's actually staggering to see the lack of support that we've gotten from some, but the overwhelming amount of support that we've gotten from others, like Rep. Ralph Norman and Eli Crane and David Valadeo, and I could just keep on going.
Well, the thing about Wasserman Schultz is that she has never met a profitable circumstance that she didn't like, especially if it was one that was underhanded and one that is not on the level. We learned from Unusual Whales. If you guys are not familiar with that group, make sure you're following them on X. They are really good. They track down all of this data in terms of how these guys trade, which is pretty unsightly to say the least. Wasserman Schultz has violated the Stock Act, I think 5 times. It's a federal crime, but she's not going to get prosecuted for it. And the reason being is because, unfortunately, this overwhelming majority of the people that are on Capitol Hill basically believe in this, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If there isn't this accountability, because everyone knows that, for the most part, everyone is participating in insider trading. And if they're getting this insider tip, especially on something like, MMTLP, that is a very big problem. So my question to you is, who actually is fighting on your behalf? You mentioned that there are 74 federal legislators that are interested in trying to help you. I'd like to think and guess that Thomas Massie is one of them. I'd like to know if there are some others that people should know about that might be of note, that they might recognize, are also on board. And then, of course, I'm sure the usual cast of characters that one would expect to hear about are not on board with it, whether it's Mike Johnson, whether it's Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries. I'm sure they all pretend like this isn't happening and they just want it to go away. So why isn't this going to go away this time? Why are you guys prepared to take this as far as it needs to be taken?
Well, this actually just goes to demonstrate the value of having a free speech platform that's available to everyone. I've never seen, and I would be hard pressed to name a movement that has grown from X the way the MMTLP community has. You've seen GameStop, you've seen the AMC, you've seen situations surrounding Volkswagen and many others. But none of those communities have been able to rally together and organize and get this kind of support at the congressional level. As a matter of fact, I challenge you to find any cause, anything out there at all, that has a grassroots movement of people behind it that has achieved the awareness that we have as it relates to the halls of Congress. So when you ask that question, why isn't this going to go away? These people are not going to just be swept under the rug. These people have laughed together, cried together, come to know each other, and come to love each other in a way that fills them with a fire and a strength to fight, not only for their own families, but for each other.
And that's why you need each other, because strength in numbers is a real thing. If you show up to Capitol Hill with 4 people, that doesn't do much. If you show up to Capitol Hill with 400 people, then they can't ignore you no matter how hard they try. And
thousands of phone calls were made. Over 52,000 emails sent via freemarketsnow.org. Which is a community, basically a community-based effort that came from Henry down in Florida, and countless others, countless other efforts that have, banded us together. And yeah, like you said, strength in numbers. That's why we're not going away.
This is a little too technical for even my understanding. I am not a trader, but T. James wants you to answer this very important question about the company under the SEC-approved S1 and 424B prospectus set the end of day on the 14th for the cancellation of the Series A pref shares and not on the 13th for FINRA's delete.
Yep. So
put that in terms if you can.
Yeah. So basically, the 424B is what the company issues, which basically is basically the law of the land, how this thing is supposed to be closed out. And what ended up happening was FINRA changed the dates, which is something FINRA actually changed the entire nature of the corporate action, which they are barred from doing. But they changed the language and they changed the dates. The changing of those dates created a settlement issue. And that settlement issue is the excuse that FINRA used to halt the trading. And that's what they've continued to hang their hat on, was we had to halt the trading because there was a settlement issue. Stocks take 2 days to settle. I buy something, it takes 2 days for it to be fully delivered and settle in my account. FINRA changing the date from the 14th to the 13th is what created the settlement issue. And subsequently, it's really interesting. Subsequently, FINRA has made a couple of statements, and in one of those statements, they stated that no market participants were aware of this halt ahead of time. But then you go and you look at who it's the UPC. It's a committee that basically determines when a stock is halted. You look at who serves on those committees, and it's representatives from brokerages and market makers. So how can you say that they did not know? And the rule is 6490. It says 4690. 6490 is the rule that FINRA is not allowed to change the language of a corporate action notice. They not only changed the language of the corporate action notice, they changed the instructions that the company had given them, but then on the 8th, they released another corporate action notice unsolicited from the company. And again, they told the company, do not interpret, do not opine. That's what they said.
The problem that we have is one of the again, I participate in the free market. I believe in it. I do not believe in our current system. I think our current system is broken beyond repair and has to be replaced. But the one thing that I really appreciated about Bernie Sanders back in 2016 in particular was that he was willing to say that the business model of Wall Street is fraud. And the idea that he said that and people were so aghast by it that how could he say such a thing? Because it's the truth. It is. Like, you just don't know. And when people have the ability to do pump and dump schemes, I mean, yeah, you can watch The Wolf of Wall Street and it's a dramatization of the realities of what those types of industries are all about. But there's also a lot of truth involved in terms of how people get rich at the expense of others who end up, in many cases, getting financially devastated or going broke. And this is one of those circumstances where there was this extremely underhanded maneuvering that took place to screw the general public. And the fact that this is being ignored across the board, that there is this code of silence in the halls of Congress to basically just, we're not talking about this. I cannot for the life of me understand how more and more people are going to band together more and more people are going to know that the system it's unsalvageable at this point, and how the people who are in charge of this broken system think that they're going to keep doing this to people. I know there is this belief that this idea that we're going to turn into a country of serfs and that we're just going to be ruled by this mega wealthy class and that people are just not going to fight back. I don't know why they think that that's the case. Yes, there is there's sort of like the 5 stages of grief. There's like this acceptance period that our country is not what it once was, but it can be again. I'm not going into slogans or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I do think that there is this point where people do hit rock bottom. But once they're there, the only place you can go is up. And right now, the most dangerous place to be in a broken economic system is hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people with nothing to lose.